Quite a lot can change in 2 years. Not only do things break down and wear out from daily driving and camping, but flaws really start to show both in the quality of the parts and in my own setup choices. I've had a lot of requests recently to do a build walkthrough for the Cruiser, so in today's video I'm going to be doing exactly that. A 2-year, 45,000 kilometer walkthrough and an honest review of the entire build. Every single modification, what has held up, what hasn't worked, and my wish list for future changes. What's up? I'm Ayman, this is Big Sandy, and welcome back to Bush Business. Because this video is going to be covering a lot of ground and I'm going to be speaking about every single modification on the car, I've added chapters below so you can skip ahead to any specific section you like. Otherwise, grab a drink and let's get straight to business. For anyone who hasn't followed the channel from the start, this is a 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser 79 series. It is the 2.8-litre 4-cylinder automatic. I've had it from brand new since April 2024, and since then it's been my daily driver, my business car, and my camper. So I pretty much use it every single day. Let's talk about the mods, starting off with the exterior. The entire Land Cruiser is protected with a combination of paint protection film and IGL ceramic coatings. Despite only washing it once every few months, it still looks pretty darn good to me, and you can be the judge of that. Right at the front we have the off-road animal bull bar. Attached to that is the built-in LED bar that you get with the bull bar and two Narva EX2 7-inch LED spotlights. Also attached to the bull bar is a worn winch, which I'm yet to use, to be honest, so please let me know if there's any particular maintenance that I must do to make sure it's still working when I do come to the time where I need it. And finally, attached to the bull bar is my GME radio antenna. Everything there has been working fantastic, no feedback. Also at the front is a safari snorkel, and look, I'm not entirely sure if I regret buying that one or not. I haven't crossed any deep water since adding it, but I do miss the suction sound that the OEM raised air intake used to make, and I do think that the Safari lets in a little bit more dust than the factory intake used to let in. The filter does get dirtier faster now with the Safari. Perhaps there's a performance benefit in there, maybe something I can investigate in a future video, but at the moment I'm not entirely sold that you need a Safari snorkel. Up the top there's a Rhino Rack Pioneer platform. This has been fantastic and very quiet, but I have had to modify it with a Dremel tool to make it more usable in order to fit things like my Outcamp Starlink mini mount. Also mounted to the Pioneer platform is a Rhino Rack recovery mount holder, and again not entirely sold on that unit. It's pretty heavy and I have had it replaced under warranty in the past. There is a video about that in the description below if you want to watch it later. Finally, on the roof rack are some hardcore lights, and I love these lights because you can control them wirelessly. I can adjust the brightness and I can set them to amber. It's very handy when you're trying to park at night at camp so you can see around you, but also to get a little bit of light around camp for the kids, for example, to use the shower tent for the bathroom at night. Moving on to the sides, MSA electric towing mirrors. They work incredibly well and they are very, very useful. A fantastic upgrade. But the quality of the plastic is ridiculous. There's absolutely no UV stability there. Even though they were coated, the plastic still discolors rapidly. But as you can see in this shot, the IGL trim coating makes a big difference. And this coating was applied several months ago at the Brisbane 4x4 show. To give you a point of comparison, the factory flares were coated 2 years ago and they still look better than brand new. So I guess as long as you coat the MSA mirrors with IGL trim regularly, they will be okay, but don't expect them to last like the factory plastic will. On the driver's side, I have a Sun's Adventure 4x4 shower tent. Fantastic unit, although I think they're now discontinued. And if you do plan to install a shower tent in the position that I have mine, you are probably going to need some weather shields. And on my car, I have the Ocam weather shields. I purchased them initially because water was starting to drip inside of the car when the window was open after I installed my previous shower tent, the kick-ass one. And that really bothered me because I like to keep my car clean and dry on the inside. But now that I have the weather shields, I find myself using them all the time in the rain. They fit perfectly, they still look brand new, so the quality of the plastic is pretty good. And for $99, it's one of the cheapest modifications you can do to your Land Cruiser. Also on the side are the factory side steps that I coated black with IGL armor, and that is our equivalent of a Raptor coating but better. And I think that black side steps really complement the car, and doing it this way is a lot cheaper than buying rock sliders, which I currently don't need. I also have the OEM wheels, and more on this in a future video. wrapped in 33-inch Falcon Wildpeak all-terrain tires. Knock on wood, I've never had a puncture or any issue yet. They are good in the wet, and I don't think they're any louder than the factory tires. And I'm pretty happy with the wear, so there's no need to look at other tires beyond just appearances. Underneath the wheels, there are Bendix rotors, Bendix brake pads, and Bendix braided lines connected to a Bendix dual diaphragm booster. And I do think that these improved the braking considerably, and they probably deserve their own dedicated video on this channel in the future. I also have the Bendix electric handbrake, which is phenomenal. Night and day when you compare it to the normal handbrake of the Cruiser, which doesn't exist, to be honest with you. Suspension is a 2-inch Lovells kit with 4.2-ton GVM upgrade, but in terms of the braking and the suspension, I'm not entirely happy with everything here. I do think there's a problem with the brakes, or at least the setup of the car, and more on that later in this video. To protect the side of the landcruiser from rock chips and mud from the bigger tires, I installed Norweld mud flaps on the front using a Superior Engineering mud flap bracket kit, which I think is a very worthy upgrade. And on the back, I have my Norweld Deluxe tray and my Norweld Deluxe Canopy. This is by far the most expensive part of my build. I have absolutely no regrets. I have not had a single leak, no quality issues whatsoever, and the customer service from Norweld is second to none. A spectacular Australian company. Just be prepared to dish out a kidney or two, but it's absolutely worth it. On top of the canopy is my Ocam rooftop tent, and that has its own video coming soon. And stuck on top of that tent is an iTech World 200-watt solar panel. Also mounted to the canopy from the side is a Dutch 270-degree awning, and that is mounted using the Norweld awning brackets, which are just massive. On the back of the Land Cruiser, I have the Echidna Off-Road version 3 wheel bag, which is a fantastic product. If you haven't seen my wheel bag review video, make sure to watch it later after finishing this video. And finally, on the back of the canopy, I have a Norweld jerrycan holder and a Norweld diesel jerrycan. Inside of the canopy, there are some Norweld shelves and holders, an XTM drawer that's been working perfectly fine, Kick-Ass oven, which is starting to show some issues, more on that later on in the video, King's chest fridge, King's compressor, both are great items with their own dedicated videos on this channel that I recommend you watch. And again, hardcore lights, never had an issue with them, they've been working perfect. In the way of electricals, the 12-volt system is an iTech World 120 amp-hour battery box and a 2000-watt inverter, which is charged by the solar panel and alternator. I did all the wiring and install myself, and that was quite a steep learning curve, but it wasn't incredibly difficult. Finally, inside of the canopy is a fire extinguisher and a fire blanket. Moving to the underneath of the Land Cruiser, the underside is protected from corrosion and damage with IGL Aegis and IGL Armor, and that still pretty much looks like brand new despite many water crossings. And I have also installed ARB diff breathers and the diff lock solenoid bash plate. The off-road animal bull bar itself comes with a very nice bash plate, and that protects the front end with some recovery points. And finally, on the bottom of the car is the tow ball, which is now replaced with a pin to suit the Cruisemaster DO35 trailer hitch. Inside of the Cruiser, 1-stone armrests on the doors, Cruiser Store armrests in the middle, Wolfbox Pro digital rear mirror, and this also acts as a dash cam recording both the front and rear. And it's also wired up to a relay that I can switch from the Cruiser to a camera on the back of the trailer when I'm towing, so I can see what's happening behind the trailer. Audio is still the OEM head unit, but I did install a rear camera to that. That was one of my first modifications, which I think you need to really have unless you want to run something over when you're backing up. And in the way of navigation, I have a Garmin Overlander, so that way I don't have to depend on the internet in case Starlink drops out and I don't have phone reception. Prior to the ScanGauge 3, I was also using the Garmin Overlander for the speedo because the 33-inch tires throw out the speed by about 7%. I also have a phone and radio bracket from the Cruiser store, and they are good solid items that I do recommend you get if you don't mind fiddling around installing them a little bit. Temperature and speed is monitored using the ScanGauge 3. And for seat protection, rather than going out and buying expensive seat covers, I decided to put some IGL fabric on all the seats and carpets, and that's going to protect them from water stains, and the seats still look pretty much brand new. On the floor, I have Max Liner molded plastic floor mats to keep the mud off the carpets. Finally, inside of the cab, I have a Red Arc Tow Pro controller for the trailer and the King Chrome high lift bottle jack. In the way of modifications is the performance, and the Cruiser has a Just Auto's multi-map and gearbox tune, which is the latest version 4 that they've released recently. And whilst I've never had any heating issues, I did decide to install an upgraded high-flow, low-temperature thermostat, which keeps the coolant temperatures lower. It didn't cost much, so really it's just cheap insurance. That's pretty much it for the modifications. What a list. And to think that this is a mild build compared to some other Land Cruisers out there. Now for the issues and what can be improved, and sit tight because this is also going to be a bit of a list. Starting off with the Canopy battery system. In our last camping trip, I was surprised to see that the battery drained completely flat in less than 3 days. And all it was running was the Starlink Mini, the fridge, and some of my awning lights. Granted, there was no sun, so there was no solar charging, but I did feel like it ran out a little bit too quickly. Rather than adding more batteries to the current setup, I would absolutely love to change the battery box to a 3000 watt-hour portable power station, which is equivalent to 250 amps at 12 volts. If I can find a way to make it work with my current setup, it's going to be far more versatile than a battery box. Next, and more critical, are two issues that have become more apparent since owning the trailer. First is that the Land Cruiser is overusing its rear brakes. And what I mean by that is that not only is it wearing out the rear brakes much faster than the front, it's overheating the rear brakes, and I feel like the front brakes are doing minimal work. When I press the brakes harder, all that happens is the front brakes lock up and engage ABS. So I'm not sure if this is a brake setup issue or a weight distribution issue. Perhaps the front axle is a little bit too light and airbags are needed to shift some of that weight from the rear to the front. I don't know, it's going to have to be something we look at. And the next issue is something I mentioned in my earlier video about the X-Tool OBD diagnostic tool. There's a delay between physically releasing the brake pedal on the cruiser and the brake lights actually turning off on the cruiser. And because of this delay, there's now a delay with the trailer releasing the electric brakes. Even though it is a minimal delay, maybe half a second, it's very uncomfortable when you're towing because you get a massive jolt when it releases. And I do have the Land Cruiser booked in a few weeks' time to have the airbags installed and have this brake issue diagnosed. So fingers crossed it's all going to be fixed because it is very frustrating and unsafe. The next issue is a little bit of a petty problem, but it's still frustrating, and that's with Toyota head office. From new, I noticed that my VIN sticker inside of the engine bay was beginning to peel. And you can kind of guess where this story is heading already. The dealership refused to take liability. Toyota head office complaint system basically replied to me and said that the sticker is not needed anyway, so they're not going to do something. And for me to now get that sticker replaced, not only do I have to pay several $100s, which I am happy to pay, but the problem is I need to get a formal letter written up explaining why I need the VIN sticker, and then go to the police station and have it signed by a justice of peace, which is a huge waste of time, almost like I'm a criminal trying to change the VIN number on my car. And that is Toyota customer service right there. Next on the issue list is the kick-ass 12-volt oven, which I mentioned previously. I don't know if it's still working or not. It feels like it's heating up, but the light telling me it's on is not working. I'm not sure if that means the thermostat is stuck or just that little light bulb is burnt out. If anybody's had this issue before, please let me know. But either way, I think I have to replace that oven now because I can't risk a fire in the canopy. And the last issue on the list are auto locking hubs. As my driveway is quite steep, I find that reversing the trailer easily overheats the gearbox oil to over 100 degrees Celsius. And that's because the torque converter can't lock up, because as I'm reversing up, I'm doing it very slowly and I have a lot of steering adjustments. If I had manual locking hubs, it's going to completely fix that problem because I can put the car in two-wheel drive low range. Other improvements and wishes for the future are a second drawer to sit on top of my current XDM drawer in the canopy, just to make more use of that available space, and also some extra shelves in the canopy for better organization. Next on my wish list is a long-range fuel tank. I really want 1,000 kilometers range, especially when I'm towing, so I can carry more water in jerry cans rather than diesel. And I would absolutely love to have an integrated compressor with an air tank inside of the toolbox, just to free up some space. Finally here, even though my Ocam tent has served me very well and it's got no problems, I'd love to try a low-weight carbon fiber rooftop tent and a different awning mount to see if bringing that massive 270-degree awning closer to the canopy is going to make a positive impact to fuel economy and handling. What do you guys think of the mods, accessories, and the issues that I raised? Would you have done anything differently, and what would you do next if you were in my shoes? I'd love to hear your opinions and suggestions in the comments below, so please make sure you share them. Also, a reminder to check out the description of this video for all the relevant video links that you might be interested in that go over some of the modifications I spoke about today. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you in the next video.